Hello everybody, Cody here and welcome to week 5 of More Clients, More Results. And this week we're going to actually start to look at getting the sale. So we're going to look at getting the sale and we're going to look at locking the deal down and getting paid. So our objective for this week is going to be to understand what's required to make a sale and then to actually make that sale and to lock it down and to make sure that we get paid efficiently. So the overview for this week is going to look like this. So we're going to talk about the mindset required for sales. And as always, you're probably aware by now that I love the mindset stuff. This is really the most important stuff. And if we can get this right, then we're going to be really set up for success and we're going to get some great results. Then we're going to look at actually setting up the sales consultation. So as with everything, there's a method to this madness. There's an order to it. So we need to make sure that we're doing it properly to make sure that we're in the best position to get the decision on the call and to get the sale. Then we're going to talk about actually conducting the sales call itself. Then we're going to talk about getting the prospect to say yes on the call as opposed to I'll think about it or send me a proposal or something like that. We're then going to look at locking the deal down. So after they've said yes, we're going to make sure that we lock it down and that they do go ahead with it, and we're going to make sure that we get paid. And then we're going to look at proposals. So we really don't want to be sending out proposals if we can avoid it at all. So let's have a look at the mindset that's required for successful sales, and this is by far the most important part of the whole process here. So we've got to really pay close attention to this, because if your mindset is right going into this, then you can actually do everything wrong and you can still get the sale. But if your mindset is in the wrong place, if you're not approaching it from the right angle, then you can do the complete opposite. You can do everything right and you can hear nothing but no's all day long, and that's just the way it is. So this stuff's really important. So we really need to be working on our mindset every single day when it comes to sales, and not really just sales, to every aspect of our business. It really is so important. So let's talk about what the right mindset is for this right now. So it all starts with this. It's about being completely detached from the outcome of the call, being completely detached from whether you make a sale or not. And to be honest, the more detached that you can be from it, the better the results are going to be, because it simply comes down to understanding this, and it's that service and servitude comes before money, and money follows service. Service doesn't follow money. So if you're providing service, then just the natural law of the universe is going to dictate that money follows that, but it simply doesn't work the other way around. If you're pursuing money, then the natural law is not that service follows money, it's that money follows service. So if you're pursuing money, then it becomes very, very difficult to actually get it. So the more you think about the sale and the more you want the sale, then the more that you're thinking about the money, right? And the less that you're actually focused on the other person. You want to constantly be asking yourself, how can I better serve this person and how can I help them achieve their goals, while at the same time being completely detached from whether they actually buy from you or not. And as with most of this stuff, it's very counterintuitive. People are on the call to make a sale, right? And they're kind of attached to that outcome. But in reality, the secret to actually getting the sale is detaching from that outcome of getting the sale, and then you're much, much more likely to get it. So the less that you care about the sale, the more yeses you're going to hear from people, the more people are going to say yes to you. And by being 100% focused on how can I better serve this person, and being really not focused at all on how do I get this sale, the sale is a byproduct of your service, the better your results are going to be. And that's really all it comes down to, because this is trust-based sales, and by really focusing on how you can help them and genuinely helping them, and that's the sole purpose of the call, is to help them, then they're naturally going to want to buy from you because they're going to trust you, and there's no way you can fake that trustworthiness. It's just not fakeable, right? Genuine servitude, it just can't be faked. If we're faking it, people are going to see through that, and that's just going to blow our whole trust-based system out of the water, and it's not going to work. So trust, when it's present in genuine trust, because you're genuinely trying to help that person, and at a subconscious level or even a conscious level, they're understanding that you're trying to help them. It's easily detected in the other person, and that's whether it's on the phone or whether you're doing this in person or whatever. And ultimately, that's what they're buying from you. They don't know if you can get them the results or not. They don't really know what you're talking about, right? It may as well be speaking Chinese to them. It's a language they don't understand, and they don't know how to get the results themselves. That's why they're talking to you. So what they're buying is the fact that they trust you can get them the results. That's what they're actually buying. They're not buying your product or service, they're buying you. And this is why it's really important to detach from the outcome. So here's what often happens, right? Most people start out with really great intentions. They understand this, and everybody gets gets this to start with. They're like, yeah, it's trust-based, I get it. Detached from the outcome, I get it. Don't focus on the sale, I get it. And they do it, and they take that to heart, and they do it, and they get really great results. They get a ton of people come on board, and they get great results. But then they start to like the success that they're getting, and they start to become attached to the outcome. And this happens to everybody. It's happened to me. It's happened to the people that I've worked with. And this is just a natural process that happens, and we've really got to guard against this. So then, instead of being detached from the outcome becomes a scorecard, and it's about how much money we can make, how many clients we can bring on board, stuff like that. And the focus becomes on getting bigger and bigger numbers, more and more clients. And we tend to lose sight of what this is really all about. And it's not about us getting more clients. It's not about us making more money. It's about the other person that's on the other end of the phone. So what will typically happen, as I've just said, we'll lose sight of the fact that this is about the other person. It's not about us. And then our results drop off and nobody buys from us, and we just don't know why. We think we're doing everything the same, but we were getting a whole bunch of sales. Now we're not getting any sales at all, and it's because you're no longer focused, or I'm no longer focused on what it is that we can do for the person and how we can help the prospect at the core level. We've switched to what the prospect can do for us and how they can help us, and that's not what they're going to buy, right? Nobody's buying that. They're not here to provide for us. We're there to provide for them ultimately. So we must constantly remind ourselves that we're here to serve our clients, and our clients are not here to serve us. And as I said, this is very obvious stuff, and nobody will disagree with this. But what typically happens, as I've said, and I've seen it over and over and over again, and I've seen it in my own business, in my own behavior, that we lose sight of that, and we've got to continually remind ourselves this is a discipline. So we're all subject to this, and we're all susceptible to it. So this is a discipline that we need to instill, and as long as we remember that and we live with it, then we can have all the clients we want in abundance. As long as we're genuinely focused on helping the other person, then we're going to have all the clients that we want. But as I said, as soon as we forget that, as soon as we forget it's about them and it's not anything to do with us, then it's game over. That's where it goes wrong. So when we talk about the actual sales presentation itself in the upcoming videos, then please keep this in mind. It's not about a magic formula, or it's not about a secret close, or it's not about having the right script, or it's not about saying the right thing at the right time. It's about building trust. That's all it is. If the person trusts you, then they're going to buy from you, right? Because as I've said, they don't know if your solution works or not. They have no way of knowing. The only way they can find out is to give it a go, and the only way they're going to give it a go is to trust you. So the format that I give you in upcoming videos is just a framework to bring some order and some structure to your course, so you kind of know where you're going and you've got a little bit of comfort and a little bit of structure to the core, right? So ultimately it's going to be your ability to convey trust that is going to sell your product. It's not really going to be the script that I give you, or the format for a presentation that I give you. That's, like I say, there's lots of ways you can do it. As I say, it's not a script or anything else. So don't worry too much about the script for right now. Don't worry too much about the format right now. Don't spend a lot of time on that. Don't spend a lot of time on technique. You want to spend all of your time examining your mindset and be constantly refining it. Be constantly asking the question, how can I get better results for my client? How can I do more for my client? How can I genuinely help this person on this phone call? How can I get them to the next level on this phone call? How can I progress them regardless of whether they buy from me or not? That's what you need to be thinking about, and you kind of need to, I kind of have a little pep talk with myself before each sales call, and I run through that and I write it down. I write stuff down like, I'm here to help this person, not to sell them a product. How can I provide maximum service to this person? And if you can do that, you're going to get great results. Now, doing this is really the greatest investment that you can make into yourself and your business, refining your mindset to this point to where you're really 100% focused on the other person and you're really not focused on yourself at all. So that's it, really. That's all there is to the sales presentation at a basic level. And I'll summarize the mindset that's required in one simple sentence. And if you do this, then you're simply guaranteed to succeed regardless of which presentation style you use or what format you follow. It really doesn't matter. So here's how I would summarize it. Be more concerned with your client's welfare than you are your own welfare. That's my sales formula to you. That's my sales presentation to you. And like I say, if you can do this, you're going to make a lot of money, and your clients are going to make a lot of money, and everybody's going to be really, really happy. So that's it. That's the key to the sales process right there. If you can really internalize that, believe it, and live it, you're going to get some amazing results. And remember this, as we said before, money is simply a byproduct of service. Where service is, money is close behind. You see, you can't pursue money directly. It's not possible. You must pursue service if you want money. You must present service and offer service and provide service. If you're doing that, then money is simply just a byproduct of that. Money will naturally and abundantly be added to you. So focus on being of service and not really focused on the money that's going to be generated as a result of that service. And really, that's it. That's it for this video. So it's a very simple mindset principle. It's as I like to say, it's simplicity on the far side of complexity. It's a very easy concept, but it's also a very difficult concept to implement because we tend to want to complicate things and make things more difficult than they actually are. So to reiterate, before I close this video, focus on what you can do for the other person on the call. Focus on helping the other person on the call. Focus on finding out what their goals are, finding out what their desires are, and offering a viable solution for those desires and goals and needs to be met. If you can do that, that's service, and wherever service is, money is very close behind. So that's it really for this video. Next we're going to look at setting up the consultation, and then we're actually going to look at the format for the sales consultation that I use itself. And as I say, don't get hung up on this. This is just something to give you some kind of order and structure so you don't get on the call and you just don't know what to say or what to do. You're kind of lost. It gives a little bit of structure and it gives some comfort, but really what we've just talked about is the key to the whole process. How can I be of more service to this client? Get that down, and then the presentation itself, the format really doesn't matter too much. So that's it for this video. I'm going to head over to the next video where we set up the consultation, and I'll see you there. Hello and welcome back. So now we're going to talk about setting up the consultation properly. So this is where we're at the point to where somebody's responded to a direct mail. They've sent you an email saying they want a consultation, or they've sent you a LinkedIn message saying they would like a consultation, something like that. So the number one rule through this whole process really is if you remember this, you're going to be okay. And it's just stay cool. Don't be in a rush to set it up. Don't be so excited that somebody wants to talk to you and we just rush, because that's really going to weaken our position a whole lot. An expert is going to be a busy person. An industry leader is going to be a very busy person. So you don't want to email them 5 seconds after you get an email from them. So think about it as though you were approaching an expert in our industry, let's say Dan Kennedy or Frank Kern or something like that. We wouldn't get an email back from Dan Kennedy 5 seconds later saying, hey, Dan here, really excited that you want a consultation, let's set it up immediately. It might be 2 or 3 days before you get a response, and it's probably not going to be from him directly. So we don't want to take it to that point just yet, but that's just to give you an idea. Just keep in mind how an expert would be behaving, and we want to behave the same way. So you want to wait at least a few hours. Like I say, a couple of days is too long. A day is not too long. Waiting till the next day to set it up is perfectly acceptable. You want to wait at least a few hours. You don't want to respond immediately, or that's just going to weaken your position a whole lot. And if you can, I'd have a PA respond to it. So you can get a PA for like $5 an hour or something like that, and you pay for it as the hours are accumulated and stuff like that. So you can get those on Fiverr, or that's the best place to look, probably Fiverr or freelancer.com. If you can have a PA respond to the request for a consultation, that's going to be even better, really, because now you don't have to handle it yourself. A true expert really wouldn't be handling their communications themselves, probably. So the next thing you want to do is use a booking calendar. Now, this is going to become essential anyway. As you get busier, it's going to become essential, just because you're not going to be able to manage your calendar any other way if you're giving different times out to different people and then waiting for them to come back and tell you what time. You're going to end up double booking yourself, and your whole calendar is just going to become completely unmanageable. So if you're not already using a booking calendar, then I would highly suggest that you start to use that ASAP. And there's a couple of calendars available to you that I'm aware of. One is youcanbook.me, and that's what I use, and the other one is timetrade.com. Now, the only reason I use YouCanBookMe is because that was the first one that I started using, and I'm now familiar with it, and it works great, and the price is right, and there's just simply no reason for me to change at this point, right? But I know people that use TimeTrade, and that works really well as well. So you can go with either one of those. Both are going to work perfectly well, and I think they're about $10 a month, something like that, and that will integrate with your Google Calendar, and it just makes your scheduling just a whole heck of a lot easier, and it just positions you as an expert as well. To be making your own bookings with clients and stuff like that is just not very professional, right? It just doesn't really position you in the right place to charge top fees. So another aspect of this is you really don't want to take calls directly, right? So I don't give them in the direct mail. We talked about that. I don't give them my phone number, and I really don't publish my direct phone number directly anywhere. I don't think. At least I really make an effort not to anyway. I've stopped doing that about a year ago because it's going to absolutely kill your expert position. If you give out your personal phone number and somebody can just call you up and get you on the phone, then that's not really what experts do. As I say, think about someone like Dan Kennedy or John Carlton or Frank Kern. You couldn't just pick up the phone and call Frank. That's just not going to happen. You can pick up the phone and call Dan Kennedy. It's just not going to happen, right? So people at the top of the game, people at the top of the field, they're not going to be contactable directly. If you are, then that just says I'm not at the top of the field, right? Which means your fees are going to go down. So a way around this, and what I do is I use a virtual receptionist. So all you want to do is just Google it, and I have a virtual receptionist on a pay-per-call deal, right? It's cheap. So basically, for every call that they receive, I think I'm charged like $2.50, something like that, which might sound like a lot, but in reality, it's like I'm only getting maybe 10 or 15 people calling that number every month. Very rarely do people call it, and then they just call me, and if I want to talk to them, they put the call through to me, and if they don't want to talk to them, they say Cody's in a meeting or something like that. So it's very cheap. You can get it on a pay-per-call deal. I think I pay less than $40 or $50 a month for that service, and it's just the way to do it. So you just want to Google virtual receptionist in your area. That's going to be adequate. Just go to Google, type virtual receptionist, and some companies will come up. There's a ton of them out there. I think it's Virtual HQ I use here in Australia, but I have one in the UK as well that I use for my UK clients, and there's just a ton of them out there, right? It's not hard to find one. What all this amounts to is you've got to limit access to yourself directly. The more accessible you are, the more harm that does to your expert position. What's readily available doesn't have value, right? So the reason diamonds are valuable as opposed to glass is that diamonds are relatively inaccessible. There's fewer of them. It's a scarcer resource, and it's that scarcity that makes them valuable. When in reality, what's the difference between a diamond and a piece of glass? I probably couldn't tell the difference, and most people probably couldn't tell the difference. It's just the scarcity that makes it valuable. So we want to create that scarcity around our time and our access, because that's going to make us more valuable. Now, once we've got a client, that's a different story. We want to make ourselves accessible at that point because we want to maintain and nurture the relationship. But we're talking about pre-relationship here, so we definitely want to limit access to ourselves. The result of that is they've got to chase you, not the other way around. If we're chasing them, then that's demeaning our value, and that's reducing our value to the marketplace. So once we've contacted them, we now want to flip this around. The hunter wants to become the hunted, and so on and so forth. We want to flip it around. So if we're chasing them, then our fee's going to go down. Our desirability to be worked with goes down. So we want to start pulling back at this point and making ourselves a little bit inaccessible, because the more you chase them, the less appealing you're going to become to them, and that's just the way it is. As I've said, just keep in mind, what would an expert do? Think about, what would an expert do? What would Dan Kennedy do? And try and behave in a similar way. Really don't make yourself too accessible, and don't chase too much. Now, another thing I don't particularly like, and I don't do, is I don't like calls that are not scheduled right. So again, we talked about this in the direct mail video. Initially, I put my phone number on there, and people could call me, and it wasn't working out very well because I'd be at the grocery store buying groceries or something like that, and they just catch me off guard. So I don't like unscheduled calls just for that reason, but there's also a positioning view to that as well. So by taking unscheduled calls, again, you're just saying that my time is not very valuable and I have a lot of free time available. You want the time to be scheduled, and you want it to be at some point in the future, right? You want to say 3 or 4 days into the future to schedule it. You don't want to rush into it, because that just says I'm not very busy and my calendar's not very full, and then of course the desirability to work with you is going to go down at that point. So as I say, unscheduled calls and just giving people your phone number, it really can catch you unprepared, and that's where a virtual receptionist can really help you there. They can make sure that you're not getting unscheduled calls coming to your phone. So now this is an optional extra that I use, and sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. There's no hard and fast rule on this, and with all this stuff I'm just kind of giving you some guidelines and some concepts and principles to stick to. I mean, you don't have to, you're not in a straitjacket here. You don't have to follow all this stuff, and I don't do one thing all the time. I do different things. So sometimes I'll send the dental white paper and I'll ask them to read it prior to the call. So I think I gave you that in the module 2, I think it is. I'll put it below this video again. That'll be the easiest thing. If you're not in the dental niche, then just modify it. It's going to work for any industry. You just need to change out dental implants for whatever it is, whatever industry you're in, right? So just do that. That's super simple. And I asked them to read it prior to the call, because the more they actually know about me, the better. But what they know has got to be controlled. So if I'm emailing them stuff and saying, please read this, and what I'll typically say is, hey, if you don't mind, have a quick read of this before our call. That way we're going to be on the same page and you can get the most value out of our time. And of course, what that white paper is doing is strengthening our expert position, and it's adding credibility to what we're doing prior to the call. And of course, it gives them another reason to say, yes, it's kind of a sale. Well, it's not kind of a sales letter, it is a sales letter, right? So we're sending them a sales letter that has usable information in it, so we're giving them additional reasons to say yes prior to getting on the call. So the basic rule when setting up a consultation is this, right? Behave as your time is valuable, and the prospect will believe your time is valuable, and they'll behave accordingly. If you behave as though your time is cheap, then the prospect will believe your time is cheap, and they will also behave accordingly. So if you want to charge premium rates and have very little resistance or no resistance at all in doing that, then you've got to act as though your time is precious and valuable, because of course it is precious and valuable, right? That's not something we're making up, it really is. But we just need to communicate that to the prospect as well, so they really are clear and they really understand that we are the expert, our time is valuable, and they're getting something of value here. So always, before doing anything, you want to ask this question: what message is this sending about me, right? So every communication that you send out is a marketing message, whether it be an email or a phone call or anything really, as a LinkedIn message. You've got to ask the question, what is this message sending out about me? What is this saying about me? Is it saying that I'm an expert, or is it saying I'm in a position of need and I'm really eager and anxious to get some clients on board? So as I keep saying, and as I'll say probably some more before the end, very counterintuitive, this stuff. It's not what you would think it would be, and the way to get people's interest and the way to get them to really get excited about working with you and really want to move forward rapidly is you've got to pull back from them, and you've got to restrain yourself from just kind of throwing yourself at them and getting all excited. If you can do that, then you're going to get really great results. So ask yourself the question, what message is this sending out about me, when you're setting up the consultations, and you won't go too far wrong. So that's about it really. To summarize, you just want to ask yourself, what would an expert do? You don't want to be too available. You don't want to be too distant either. So you kind of got to get that balance right. So usually setting a consultation 3, 4, 5 days into the future is good. That's a good amount of time to where they haven't forgotten about what it is that you're doing, but at the same time, it's far enough into the future to where you're telling them that, look, I'm a busy person, and if you're going to want to work with me, then understand that I'm very busy and I'm quite selective about who I work with. So this is the kind of message that we're trying to set up prior to the actual consultation itself. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to talk about the consultation, so the sales process. And again, the last video on mindset really is what it's all about. So go ahead and watch that again. Very, very important stuff. And like I say, if you get that right, you're on solid ground and you're going to make more sales. You're going to get more people saying yes than no. But in the next video, we're going to look at the actual sales consultation, and we'll talk about a format that you can follow that works really well, that's going to bring some structure to what's going on and just make the whole process a little bit more comfortable until you get comfortable with it. So that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next video.